Tailgating season is here, and there's no one better than our guest today at making the game day gathering as exciting as the game itself. Her dad is a legend in the business of sports. She is quickly becoming a legend in the kitchen of sports. Please welcome into the huddle, Daina Falk.
In the huddle today is Daina Falk. She's going to have some amazing stories from her childhood, and really, we're going to find out about her love of sports, but she is coming from the hungry fan, and you and I are always hungry, and we love tailgating, and I think she's going to give us some really good inspiration on what we should do for game day.
We're moving right into football season, so it's a great time.
It's going to be perfect. So today, Daina Falk joins us, the hungry fan. Thank you for coming on and being in the huddle with Guss and Dave.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
So how we always start is we really want to know how sports shaped your life. We know your father is a very famous agent. You know, every show and thing that we've researched, a lot of people want to ask about him. Well, this show is about you. We want to understand about how sports shaped your life and all those moments that you had growing up that really got you to where you are today. So what was that spark that really gave you that love of sport?
Well, I appreciate you how you're coming about this, or your intro into this. It really wouldn't be fair to actually talk about my love of sports without talking about my dad. As much as I'm like, yes, you know, I've done stuff on my own. The whole reason I got here is because of the opportunities that I had to go to events when I was a little kid with my dad. I have a little sister. She's 5.5 years younger than I am. We have no brothers. I'm the oldest, and I'm sort of like daddy's little girl. And in some ways, even though maybe this sounds weird, like the son he never had, because I was really into sports. My sister used to fall asleep at basketball games, and we would sit next to this Heckler, and she would sleep through that. So like, it sort of just goes to show you that wasn't so much her thing. It was mine. And the whole reason that I launched Hungry Fan to begin with is because I did fall in love with this fan experience when going to games and events with my dad as a kid, and just seeing the excitement and the zeal and the passion that sports fans have on game day. That's really what excites me.
So what sports did you play when you were younger?
Well, I started with figure skating actually, because I thought I was going to be Christy Yamaguchi. Right. Turns out not so much. That's okay. I'll still watch it when it's on in Winter Olympics. Right. I got into soccer when I was a kid. A lot of little girls growing up in the DC area play soccer. So I played soccer, which was good because I wasn't very athletic. So they could just sort of put me on defense. And I was just like that gigantic kid who you had to get through.
The wall.
And then I got into tennis, and I really, really loved tennis. I ended up playing tennis all through high school, and then I played it on the club team at Duke.
Wow. So you played multiple sports growing up, and I think that all teaches us a lesson. You know, as every one of our guests has attributed to, Dave, that sports has taught them something that they couldn't get anywhere else. And so when you were little, you got knocked down, you got to get back up. What were some of the lessons that you learned as a child from sports?
I think sports actually, both on playing, I would say especially with team sports, obviously teaches you how to play well with others, which I think is particularly good maybe if you're like an only child and you don't normally have to play well with others. But yeah, I think you learn the team dynamic pretty early. And certainly in any capacity, whether you play tennis, which is sort of like an individual sport, or you play soccer or basketball or lacrosse or whatever it is, the value in having a strong coach who can be somebody that you can respect, and also somebody that instills in you the respect for authority, I think just in general is a great thing that you can get out of sports.
Was there a coach specifically that really kind of touched you at an early age that really kind of gave you inspiration?
I mean, I really liked my soccer coaches when I was a kid, but I was also 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I didn't love my tennis coach so much. So tennis was sort of it was actually interesting. The thing that I got out of tennis quite a bit was the sort of the mind capacity of mind over matter. And I wasn't very good at it. If I had wanted to be a better tennis player, I probably should have had a sports psychologist, because I think that's really that's a huge part of that game, and probably other games too, like golf or I don't know. But being to do that.
from tennis, like you have to immediately let that last play go, right? The point that you won or lost or whatever, it's in the past. And so many people have such issues with like, oh man, I could have had that, I didn't have it, but that's a game that the mental side of it really has to be huge.
Yeah. A lot of times when I would lose, it was because I beat myself.
Right. Yeah, that makes it hard. I can understand.
Yeah.
You don't have a team to rely on.
It's just you out there.
It's just you.
Yeah, it's just you. And
did you play doubles?
I did. I played both. Doubles is fine. It's slower. I liked playing like power tennis. I have a strong forehand. My backhand's actually good now, unfortunately. Wasn't better then. And I had a really good serve. So I would generally hang around the baseline and hit it pretty hard.
Now, your dad was probably on the road a lot when you were growing up.
Yeah.
Were your parents able to go to your games as much as they could?
Yeah, they did. There's like this story my dad loves to tell of like the day that he actually got to coach my soccer team. Because he wanted to coach so bad. And I was like, you are not coming anywhere near my soccer team. But our two coaches were out. Our backup coach was out. I guess it was like everyone was on vacation. And so he actually got to coach. And he loves to tell the story. Basically, like he came up with this like elaborate defense, like zone defense sort of thing for soccer that we were like 5 years old, 7-year-old little girls, whatever. It was this very elaborate, even I think for like teenagers, elaborate game plan. And he like huddled us up and like tried to explain to us what to do and where to stand and like who to go after and cut this girl off. None of that happened. And apparently like one of my little friends, Danielle, she was like, but Mr. Falk, we're not professional athletes. We're just kids.
Hey, all of us dads do that. I coached my daughter's basketball team one year, and I'm trying to explain things to them, and they weren't listening. I'm like, okay, everybody on the line and run. And they're like, yay, we're going to run today. And I'm like, I couldn't even discipline them. They're doing cartwheels and everything, and I'm like, all right, we're just going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. Yeah.
My parents would come, my mom would come, my little sister would come, my little sister would eat all of our oranges. Yeah. It was what it was.
I just remember when I was coaching, I have 2 daughters in high school now, but when they were younger, coaching them, I'd always look over to the sidelines and I'd see the other parents, and maybe they weren't second guessing me, but I could tell they were a little bit at least talking amongst themselves about my strategy. So I can imagine, when your dad was implementing that defense, they probably were talking amongst themselves. Going,
They're probably just like, let's watch this fail.
Yeah,
like,
and then I would like watch them more than the kids.
He's a famous sports agent. What's he know about coaching soccer?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of who's this guy?
I got that all the time. I mean, it's crazy. So when you were a little kid, we talked about you playing sports. What are some of your very vivid memories of when you would travel with your dad? Like some of your favorite places you used to go?
I mean, we went to a lot of games when I was a kid. I remember when I was really young, like really, really young, I was allowed to go into like the tunnels area, like outside the locker rooms. And even when I was really young, and I don't remember being in the locker rooms, apparently I was in there. And then I got to be at an age where that's inappropriate. And so then I would sort of hang out outside. When I was a little kid, we used to come up to New York a lot because I was a huge Patrick Ewing fan, and I still am. And I'm friends with his son, and I loved coming up to New York. It was always really fun to get on the Amtrak with my dad and pop up here. And I just remember, like, one of my more vivid memories as a kid was, like, he would sort of find people after I was too old to, or like, I was getting to the point where letting me hang out in the tunnels and in the locker room really wasn't, like, the best. So he started putting me with, like, players' wives, and, like, I just had babysitters anywhere I would go. Right. And I remember one year I would sit with Rita Ewing and Crystal Anthony, who was the Patrick Ewing's ex-wife and Greg Anthony's ex-wife, but they were married at the time. And I was sitting with them and these other women who I didn't really know, but they had like the coolest nails and they had like really cool outfits, and I thought they were really fun. And I was like sitting on their laps for like the whole game. Right. Turns out it was Salt and Pepper. So I was like, okay. Pretty good babysitters. Yeah,
pretty good babysitters. I bet they're a lot of fun.
Unless you're Andre Rison, would be good. Burning a house down.
Right.
That's another podcast.
Right, that's another one. We're not dealing with that, Dave. Right. No, but yeah, no, that's a great story. Georgetown, were you a fan of Patrick when he was even at Georgetown? I mean, you lived in the DC area.
I was 2 or like
Two?
almost 2 when he was drafted, I think, in 1985. So, right, number 1 draft pick, 1985. I was 2. So,
Well, then you got to follow him through his whole career.
yeah, I
Basically,
mean,
like and be at those events. So your dad represented him?
Yep. He was one of my dad's clients, and lovely guy, still to this day, like such a good guy.
What is that like being that young and little, and then you're just staring up at Patrick, who's like, what is he, 7'2"?
Probably, yeah.
7'2", yeah. Like it hurts your neck.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, when growing up like that, I was aware that was an opportunity or an experience. Like being around these athletes wasn't normal, like wasn't what everybody was doing. Yeah. But they were just like family members. I mean, the relationship that my dad has always had with his clients has always been very close and like mentory and familial. Like you can always come and stay in our guest room, which they did. So it was like having just tons of very, very tall uncles.
Right.
Hey, Daina, I want to ask you one thing. Circling back to when you would fall asleep next to the Heckler, was it the guy at the Bullets games that behind the bench?
Yeah, Robin Ficker.
Yeah, he's one of the most famous.
No, her sister would fall asleep.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, your sister would.
No, not me. Oh gosh, no. Like I don't know how anybody could sleep through that. He had his like army boots. He had the chicken. He would bring the books from all the visiting team coaches and like rip them up, and he would scream, and he would like stomp with his enormous boots. And my sister would just conk out, and I'm like, okay.
No, I remember the guy. He's probably the most famous heckler.
Oh yeah, he has
ever. Yeah, it was crazy though. But the other teams would like interact with him and stuff. Like
yeah, well, the coaches would like wave at him, but like he was sort of harmless, mostly harmless, but just super weird. He was a weirdo.
But I think he was like an attorney or something too. He was like a professional.
He was. I think he went to prison, and then I read an article one time in like the Washington Post or saw it on the local news that like somehow he had climbed up one of the traffic signs on top of like 295 or whatever one of those highways were, and he was like protesting something. He was a little bit off, I think.
So not the guy you really want representing you in the courtroom, maybe.
Probably not. Depends on the charge, maybe.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Maybe it like depends what it was. Yeah. He was a very well-known heckler. He sat right across from us.
So what high school did you go to in the area in DC?
I went to Walter Johnson.
Oh,
Public school. Yeah.
And then from there you went to Duke. Like, was that did you always know you were going to Duke, or how did you make that choice?
I went to my first Duke game. My dad took me to my first Duke game when I was 12, I think. And I walked onto campus, and I just remember like looking around like, wow, like Gothic Wonderland. Wow. It's just the most beautiful campus. And that wasn't really it. I was just like, wow, this is a great place. But the minute I set foot in Cameron Indoor Stadium, I was sold. I was like, I have to go to Duke. Here I am. I'm actually wearing Duke blue. That's not planned, but hey, Dukies.
A lot of them out there.
Yeah, if you've ever had the opportunity to watch a game, even if it's like very beginning of the season and they're playing like Santa Clara or whatever, like it's really truly the most incredible place to watch a sporting event. It's electric, and I was sold immediately. And then seeing Kville and how all the students are out camping out for months through the dead of winter, just that camaraderie and excitement around watching the basketball team, I was like, this is where I have to go. This is the ultimate fan experience if you're going to be a college student.
Did you actually participate in Krzyzewskiville? Like, did you sleep out there and stuff?
I did. It wasn't my own tents. I thankfully, because I was part of like the Duke basketball family, they took very good care of me. I like adopted Coach K's assistant, Jerry, who's the most wonderful woman, as like my mom. So I would go and do my homework or my schoolwork in the Duke basketball office on Tuesdays and bring treats from the gym, like candies and nuts. And she would share all the cookies that the players' moms were cooking or baking and sending. So we had a really nice relationship with Coach K's staff. But I did spend a lot of time in Kville because that's where the fan experience was.
Well,
And I
the coaches, they would send out pizzas to everybody and stuff.
Oh yeah. Nike would come out and they would like hand out T-shirts. You get huge orders of Papa John's. Yeah, I mean, I actually like. I would like to go and do that. Like, I would like to go and buy everybody their pizzas or subs or something one of these days. Just or bring in like if there was like an In-N-Out truck in North Carolina, like just bring out the truck and which they don't have, but something like that would be super cool.
You could go show them how to tailgate the right way.
Yeah, it's a little different, I think, when you're in college, and also there's very strict rules in K-ville, so like anything that's combustible or flammable, not so much. You do have to be very careful. But there are some like indoor grills that you can plug in, and they have outlets in the light posts, so you can plug in a computer, or you can plug in like a electric grill. I'm sure that would probably work.
Did you guys have anything like that at Arizona, Dave?
A mini version of that. That's the pinnacle of college basketball. Arizona is just a touchdown, but yeah, it was great fan experience. Not a lot of camping.
Yeah, well, out in the desert.
Well, it's West Coast, so we're kind of laid back.
Too. Right. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
They're camping out a lot out there. So you're at Duke. What was that experience like? Because Duke, besides basketball, I mean, the whole experience. I have a lot of friends who've gone there, kids I've coached that have gone there, people I know. I mean, just what a great experience Duke is. What was that experience like for you? Because everybody you were close with the basketball team, and you probably had a lot of friends. I'm sure they were hitting you up for tickets and all that.
It was actually the exact opposite. It was so refreshing to go to Duke. In high school, that happened all the time. I actually had one girl, like, to this day, it still like blows my mind that she had the cojones to do this. She came up to me after Michael Jordan signed his 1 year, $36 million contract. And she was like, so my dad and I were up late last night trying to figure out how much money your dad just made off that contract. Can you lend me $157 for a pair of 7 jeans? And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Wow.
Sorry, what? None of that happened in college. It was like it was great. People did not ask me for tickets. People did not ask me to go to like get them to bring them with me, I should say, to games. It was actually like if you couldn't get into the student section, you almost didn't want to be there, and you would rather just be watching it on TV with other Dukies somewhere on campus.
Do you still go to Duke games now?
I do. I don't go as much as I would like to, but I actually was there. The Carolina game often falls on my birthday, and it did this year. And as you know, like Duke, Carolina switch off on who hosts which game, the first game or like the first or the second, because we play each other in both February and March. And the March game is always the last game of the season. It's usually seniors night. So this year, the Carolina game at Duke fell in February, and it happened to fall on my birthday. And my husband had never been to a Duke game, so I brought him down, and it happened to be that game where Zion Williamson's shoe like exploded in the first 35 seconds.
Right.
It was interesting. It wasn't what I was hoping it would be, because you never want to see that happen. But Barack Obama was there, and that was super cool. So I was watching him like half the time. I was just like so taken with the fact that he was there.
What's the biggest difference between a game day at Chapel Hill versus at Cameron? I know it's a little bit different crowd.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, first of all, the Dean Dome is much larger, much, much, much larger. So it obviously fits more students. It's not as intimate. Like, I know that they've changed up the configuration, but like when I was at Duke, it was 9,324 seats, all in. Students, band, family, less than 10,000 seats, like closer to 9,000 than 10,000. Dean Dome's much larger, and Durham in general has improved quite a bit since when I was there, meaning like there's more to do, there's more bars, more restaurants, but like, Chapel Hill's always been more of like a cool town to hang out in, and there's more bars. So I think people are just as excited in Carolina on game day as Duke students are, Duke fans are. I'm not going to say they're not, but I feel like they're more scattered. There are either more of them in the stadium or the arena, or they're just more scattered around Chapel Hill.
Well, it's also
like bigger.
I think where the students are, in relation to the court,
Yeah.
too, was a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, at Duke, like, I remember one game I went to, I can't remember if I was a student yet or not. I don't know if I was a student yet, but one of the guys on the team on Carolina had gotten arrested. And everybody at Duke got a hold of the mugshot and printed out like thousands of copies. And so all the students, because, you know, the students are on one like long side and then the teams are on the other long side. And then on either end were grad students and then the band. And so everybody in the student sections, which is like 3/4 of the court, were given the mugshots. And they would just hold them up and go like this and go like, guilty, guilty. And in fact, a lot of the grad students wore judges' robes. Like, I don't know how they coordinated this, but they did, because Duke students are smart asses and amazing like that. And he went like 0 for 8 in free throws. I think maybe he made a jump shot. I mean, he had the worst game.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Like, no.
I like that one. That's good.
Yeah.
You got to get every advantage you can.
Oh, no, absolutely. You know,
Do what you gotta do.
the proximity to the student section of the court is such a big difference in where they're positioned. It's like you mentioned Arizona. Arizona gets 13,660 every game, but the students, the prime seats are for the donors and all, you know, court side, and it's just it's a different feel. It's loud, but it's okay. It's not like what you're used to.
I mean, they're like on top of you at Duke. If you're a visiting team, they're on top of you.
So what did you major in at Duke?
I majored in an incredibly useful field. Trying to think of the word, medium history. It's very useful if you want to be a teacher.
Right.
I also got a certificate, which was like Duke's version of this. It was like just short of a major, but way more than a minor in what they called markets and management, which is business.
Right.
So I took business and I took history, and only recently have I been able to use my history degree, but I enjoyed it.
What are you using it in?
I've been working on a project with ESPN, and it's all about the history of tailgating and the history of like the various game day cultures that you'll find around the country when you travel to a place to watch a game. And so it's all like, you know, how did these cultures come to be here? Like, it's immigration patterns, it's like notable people in the history of these places, food culture. And on 3 separate occasions, the main guy at ESPN is like, you know, Daina has a degree in history, so like she's like an expert at this. Like, I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, finally! I call my parents like, thank you so much for spending all that money on my tuition. All these years later, it's finally coming in handy.
Right. So the history of tailgating it actually would be very interesting, because all the years I played in the NFL, every time that we would go to a stadium and you ride through the tailgaters, some places you get to sneak around them, but a lot of places you go right through them. And it's very interesting. They're all a little different, and they're all wired a little bit different. The craziest ones maybe were in Oakland.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. We got a lot of moon shots in Oakland.
Yeah, but like what they're cooking, what they're wearing, it varies. It really does. I mean, yes, you'll always find burgers and hot dogs, but there are very strong, obviously, like food traditions, and those all are derived from like cultural things and historical things that have happened in all of these towns.
So are you guys looking at pro sports and college tailgate atmospheres?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting with college, but I would love to look at pro sports. I'd love to look into like the history of NASCAR. I mean, if you study like the history of like Daytona and why that particular location, it's actually quite interesting. It actually had to do with the firmness of the sand, because they could race the cars on the sand.
Wow.
At the beach.
Yeah,
so,
and then all the racing ones, their tailgate inside the tracks, they're just some of the most, like you hear about them, they're just unbelievable. The Indianapolis 500 tailgate, it's just insane.
It's insane. It's like the crazy thing is when you go through for the first time, if you go to one of these races and you're going to the infield, you know, you go under, you don't know you're going under the track. Like, you know, you're going through a tunnel, but it doesn't like occur to you that it's the track that you're going underneath. And you sort of like, you know, emerge into this grassy area and you look around and the track is just enormous and it's all around you. And it just blows your mind that you're like in the middle of all of it. It's insane.
Yeah. And then like Bristol Speedway, everywhere. Everybody brings their RVs in, and it's just a massive tailgate. It's crazy.
Yeah. I do a lot of work with the Pocono Raceway. I host their Fan Fest. I have for the last 3 years. It was actually just a few weeks ago. We were on stage with Jimmy Johnson. Super fun. There's like 33,000 people camping out in the infield. They have double deckers. They've built these things on top of their RVs. They're hanging out up there like all day. They're watching practice runs, and they're everywhere. You see, like, my favorite is like when you come across the RVs where they come in with 4 and they make a square, and then they have this like courtyard that they've now created, and it's just this epic tailgating spot where they have like 6 grills, fryers, picnic tables. I mean, it's amazing.
I went down to LSU to a game maybe like 10 or 15 years ago. We got there on a Thursday, and the tailgating there is crazy.
Yeah.
But it started like Thursday looked like the parking lot of the Steeler game on a Sunday. Yeah. Like, it was just nuts. And it was funny because so many people asked us, because I was a fan of Arizona. Arizona is like 0 football following and stuff. There's about 200 Arizona fans out of the 99,000 there. But so they're kind of saying, why are you here and stuff? But then they'd also say, have you ever been to Ole Miss? They were so worried about Ole Miss because of the tailgating at Ole Miss, and they were more worried about talking about Ole Miss's tailgating versus LSU than the game itself. That was
there's a lot of pride down there.
Big source of pride.
So competitive, especially the SEC is so good for that. It's so good for that.
But like you were saying with these guys would have like parquet floors and stuff that they'd roll out. They would be like 70 feet by 50. It was crazy. It was like nothing I'd ever seen.
100%. I mean, there's actually a great book. If you're ever interested in reading a book, it's written by a guy named Warren St. John, who is from Alabama. And I think he moved to New York at 18 to go to Columbia University, get a journalism degree. And I think he's been here ever since. I think he's either Wall Street Journal or New York Times. I can't remember. But he took a year off or sabbatical and went back to Alabama to write a book about tailgating for Alabama football games. And the book is called Rammer, Jammer, Yellow Hammer. So Rammer, Jammer is the cheer, and Yellow Hammer is the state bird. And it is like so funny, and there's so many unique, interesting, quirky, weird characters that are all real people, and they're all rolling in on Tuesday. The game's Saturday, and they're rolling in on Tuesday into the parking lot.
You're like, do any of you people work?
Right. Like, what do you do for a living? Like, do you work via satellite from your laptop and you can be anywhere? Because if so, good for you. Otherwise, what's your story, man?
And then just to go at it that hard for that many days, it's like, how do you do that? Like, that's nuts.
It's a lot. I feel like, especially if you don't have an RV, I mean, like showering, restrooms, it's always not as nice.
Right, exactly. So you left Duke, and what was your next transition for you?
After Duke, I moved to LA, and you guys ever seen the show Entourage?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I was
big fan.
The assistant, the assistant character. Yeah. His name I'm totally blanking on right now, which is weird because I've seen the show a bajillion times. That Rex Lee, the character who he played, that was me. I worked at a talent agency. I had 2 REs that I worked for simultaneously, and I got my feet wet in the entertainment world. Sorry, my apartment is in New York. It's loud. I apologize.
No, that's great.
Windows are closed, and this is still how loud it is. It was like Hollywood grad school. It was like learning the ins and outs of how movies get made and TV shows get made and who gets paid what and why and how. Because I thought I wanted to do what my dad did or does, and he was like, "No, absolutely not. So go try Hollywood. Maybe you'll like that." And I did not love it, but I learned a lot, and those skills and the things that I learned actually ended up coming in handy. Moving forward, I went from there to produce a TV show at 23 years old called Committed the Christies, about Doug Christie and his wife Jackie, NBA player. And then shortly thereafter, I started building Hungry Fan. And my first sort of foray into the media side of Hungry Fan was to cover the 2012 London Olympics for NBC Universal. So I produced and hosted 15 segments, one every day from the games. which I would never have known how to do had I not probably worked at UTA for a little bit and then produced that show.
Wow, that's a lot. Like, because that's what the show's about, is really finding out those steps it took you to get to where you are. And so many people take one, they don't like it, and they fail. And, most of our guests have the great stories of, hey, I didn't really like that. I'm going to move on. I'm going to do something else. And it's just hard work and putting that effort and that time behind it. And so have you always been a cook? Have you always loved to cook?
I have loved cooking mostly because I've always loved eating. And my mother is not a huge cook. If she didn't have to eat, she wouldn't. She's just not into food, which is so utterly bizarre and foreign to me. But
Right.
So I think when I was like 5, she taught me how to make scrambled eggs so that I could make myself breakfast on Saturday mornings so that I didn't have to wake her up. Usually my dad would be traveling.
Right.
But then I discovered the Kraft grated Parmesan cheese can. That green one, you remember the green one that used to be like in everybody's fridge? On the back of that can for years was a recipe for Caesar salad. So I just started making Caesar salad like nonstop. Like that was my job. Short order to cook one item Caesar salad.
Right.
Sprinkling in scrambled eggs here and there. And then eventually, actually, while I was at Duke, I went abroad for my junior year, and I studied in Italy and I studied in France. And while I was in both countries, I took cooking classes and learned techniques, like more technical stuff, and how to, like how do you make a classic bechamel sauce, which is the basis for a lot of things, and how do you make mayonnaise, and how do you make ketchup, and sort of took that, and I've just been cooking ever since.
So then have you gone to like Louisiana and Mississippi to learn that kind of style of cooking for your book? Because I think that's very important.
I haven't gone to those places. I mean, the beauty of like technology since I graduated from college in 2005 is that, recipes and videos and techniques are very accessible now. I mean, I have like Julia Child's book. I have like the big encyclopedia of the art of cooking and cooking techniques. But I've also just spent a lot of time reading and watching like recipe videos and learning the Cajun stuff, and which is actually rooted in French, but obviously adapted to that culture. So yeah, thanks Google,
right.
YouTube.
Yeah. I remember in college, there's about 8 of us that lived in a house together one year, and we decided it was getting a little expensive to always eat out, so we were trying to be resourceful. And the one guy came in with a Julia Child's cookbook, and it was like, I think we flipped through it, and we just went right back to Jack in the Box and stuff.
Yeah, you did like the Heckler at DC games. You just ripped it up, and we can't do this.
Yeah, do you like that guy Robin Ficker? Did you Robin Ficker it up?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I remember she had real big hands though. Julia Child had large hands, but she was a phenomenal cook.
And her book, like it's called The Joy of Cooking, I believe. It's a little advanced, and there's some recipes that like you're never going to make. They're just sort of older style recipes. Right. But in general, there's some great ones in there that if you can just learn some of these techniques to make certain things, you really can apply it to quite a bit. Like even like just the idea of like, is it low and slow or hot and fast? If it's low and slow, you're going to get sort of like falling off the bone no matter what your protein is, and it's going to be moist and soft, and you have to remember, like marinating is key. If it's hot and fast, like keeping an eye on it, and quick flavors, and making sure there's always enough oil or fat to cook through and so it doesn't burn. Like just stuff like that. You get all of that from her book.
We should have looked at it more closely, but we were 20-year-old frat boys at UA, it was just heavy reading for us.
You guys were not using any of that.
No.
Yeah,
so
no.
Do you cook with your mom now?
I cook for my mom. She on occasion, like very, like usually holidays, Thanksgiving, she will sous chef for me, and I will just give her very explicit tasks. It's not that she can't cook, she just doesn't enjoy it.
That is the worst part of cooking, is preparation. Cutting everything up, and that's what I always have to do in the kitchen, is cut everything up for my wife so that it's easy, ready to go.
Yes, but it's really important. If it can really, especially if you're making multiple dishes at once, if you don't have the ingredients prepped, nothing will come out at the same time. Everything will come out at different times, and you're just like, hang on, let me go get that, and then 20 minutes later you come back.
Yeah. Well, tell us the history then of or the origin of the Hungry Fan. Like, how did that all start?
Yeah. So really, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is like the fan experience and soaking that up. So as I said, I covered the Olympics. I had an opportunity in the media space to cover 3 Super Bowls. I've done a lot of morning shows and nighttime shows, and actually had a lot of opportunities to understand game day from the media perspective. Obviously, very familiar with game day from the player and an agent perspective. I've worked for teams. I get that. So when you think about like the stakeholders in game day, and game day meaning like everyone coming together for insert sporting event here, whether it's a race, a match, or a game, there's really not that many people, like stakeholders involved. I mean, yes, you can get into like the Aramarks of the world and the merch sellers, but like those people aside, you have the people who compete and their representatives, you have the people who own the teams, and you have the journalists and the people who cover it and broadcast it. But the other entity that's, in my opinion, incredibly important, if not the most important, because they're the ones who buy the tickets, who show up, who watch the programming, are the fans. And there was never anybody curating their experience or helping them to entertain better or know what they were doing or know what to do or how to do it, where to show up and when. And that's not to say that like they needed it. It's just there wasn't anybody there for them, for that piece of game day. And I liken what I'm trying to build and what I've been building at Hungry Fan to what Martha Stewart built. It is a lifestyle brand, and she's like a lifestyle guru. Right. Now, it's not the same audience. Like Connecticut Housewives, there might be some who are huge sports fans who might want to tailgate or homegate, but for the most part, that's not what we're not talking about the Housewives. We're talking about 80% of America actually who tailgate annually, and who knows how many people homegate, which is like throwing the watch party at home and inviting friends and family. So it all started with my love for the fan experience, which I've had since I was a really little kid, through Duke, through after Duke, and wanting to provide a service to an overlooked and neglected, but super important, wonderful group of people.
So what is your favorite recipe in your book?
Everybody asks me that. It's like the number one question, like, what's your favorite game day recipe? And I say, like, who's your favorite of your children?
I got that the other day.
And he actually answered.
I did.
Oh,
well, the kids think it's all the other kids.
As long as they think it's that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's important. As long as my daughter thinks it's her, my 2 boys think it's them, but they always say it's each other, so it doesn't really matter.
If I had to pick a dish for somebody to make me on game day, I'll put it that way, like to either sit down and eat because it's there, I would say buffalo wings because I love buffalo wings.
Now, is that in the parking lot tailgating, or is that at home tailgating?
Anywhere. Give me buffalo wings anytime, and I am a very happy girl.
Like grilled, fried. What's your favorite way to do it?
Preferably not fried, because then they get oftentimes they get very dried. People are not so good, even though fried shouldn't actually make them dried out. They just usually just overcook them most of the time. So grilled is great, baked is great. Preferably not breaded, because then I feel like that sauce sort of gets lost. It just gets soaked into the breading and it doesn't have that same powerful kick. So preferably not breaded. And then lots of extra sauce.
Yeah. My favorite thing to eat when I go to a game is nachos with jalapenos. Every stadium I go to, that's what I got to try. I will say Pittsburgh's are pretty good.
I sadly, and this is like blasphemy saying it to a professional cook like this, but it's the nachos with the canned yellow sauce.
Oh gosh,
I love it though. I
Oh,
know.
no.
I didn't even want you to hear that. But
No,
yeah.
like, it's going to be like one day
That's
the
Aramark
world
special.
will end and there will be like cockroaches and
And that.
canned nacho sauce.
Right.
And that will be all that is left.
And people dipping Twinkies in it, like to stay alive.
Oh, geez, no.
No, I used to go to. I grew up in Tucson, and I used to go to Tucson Toro games, the minor league team of the Astros at the time, and that was for. I didn't even watch the game. I just kept going back and nachos. My parents were like, "What's happening here?" But it was.
Yeah.
It kept me quiet.
It's like
So.
space cheese.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
It
It'll
is.
last forever, and it'll
Yeah.
drive your car.
I don't want to know what it does to your
It can
inside.
be like glue. Yeah. So what's next for the hungry fan?
Great question. Well, we have really been focusing a lot on rolling out a lot of products and working with product brands to help curate that part of their game day too. So we are getting very heavy into the product space, which I'm excited about. We are doing a lot of events. We're actually just in talks to do some stuff around the Super Bowl and Kentucky Derby just this morning. And we're working on some content, whether it's going to be digital or TBD. But we've got some great partners and networks that are interested and that we're working with. So I don't know, like step 3 in the 50-step plan for total world domination, maybe? I don't know. Maybe not step 3. Like, I think we're further than that. Maybe like step 13.
Well, yeah, but I like it. There's not a lot out there like that really tells you, this is how you should do it. This is the best way to do it.
Well, with that passion, too.
Exactly. I think there's a great niche for what you're doing, and it's
Thanks.
sorely needed.
I appreciate that. I feel the same way. And more than anything, like I really, for so many years, it's been very one directional, like me to you, I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you what to do. And like, that's great. And some people need and want that. But what I really am excited about, and I'm trying to desperately figure out the best way to do this, is, how do we continue to grow a community where we can talk to each other, and how, whether it's, in the world of social media, it's called user-generated content, where you take pictures of what you're doing and you share it, and we can help spell out for people who are curious, what is it that you're doing? If you're the committed tailgater and you know what you're doing, but somebody's more curious, like, how do I do that? How do I achieve that level? We can help. But I really want it to be more of a reciprocal thing, as opposed to just me telling you what to do because I'm just so smart.
Well, I liked on your website that you could put in where you live, and you're going to help us find a bar to go sit at and watch the game.
Yeah, Sports Bar Radar. We have to work on that too, build that up a little bit more and make it more robust. But I think we have like 75 cities, both United States and Canada, in there. So that's pretty cool.
I like that. Sport. Does it tell you like what kind of food you're getting, or can you put any of that query in?
Yes, they are sorted by kind of food. They're sorted by like dive bar, more like a grill. We actually brought on a bunch of college students to help me go through everything and put filters on it to make it easier to use.
Well, let Dave and I know if you need us to go test the food at any sports bars here in Pittsburgh, and we'll find the right ones.
Or anywhere else.
Yeah, we're willing to drive.
It's work, honey.
Yeah,
I'm
have
sorry.
car, we'll travel.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right now, you guys also wrote a cookbook.
Yes, I have it right here.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Hungry Fans Game Day Cookbook.
So tell us
which I
about
will
that.
send you. Yeah, it came out 3 years ago. So almost 3 years ago, like late August 2016. It was published by Time Inc., which is now Meredith. They got bought. But that's unimportant. And the book is 165 recipes, 40 of which I collected from professional athletes and Olympians. So recipes from Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, LeBron James, Boomer Esiason, Andre Agassi, Steffi Graf, and so on and so forth. It's all meant to be, I gave them like one prompt, and it was, send me a recipe that you would serve if you were having a Super Bowl party and inviting your friends over. So LeBron would have a super healthy Super Bowl party. I'm not sure if actually like that would be what I'd want for my cheat day, but his recipe is still delicious. Everybody else, sent, like fried okra, meat. It's really good. Like I got Swedish meatballs from Boomer. Very, very yummy stuff. And then all the recipes are really meant to provide you delicious things that you can make, whether you're home gating or tailgating.
Yeah, I have two things. I would make my guacamole.
Yeah.
I love making. And then I would make buffalo chicken dip.
Well, there you go.
Those two things they're always a hit. Everybody eats.
Yeah.
The guacamole, and I know there's a trick. I think you use maybe lime juice or something. When guacamole starts to get a little bit old, though, if it's out, like let's say you're at the Chiefs game and you're eating guacamole dip and it's been there for an hour.
Yes.
That starts to get a little dicey. But what do you put? Is it lime?
I always put extra lime in mine
so
that it stays a little.
Acid, lime, or lemon is generally what you can use to prevent or to stall the browning of any fruit or vegetable that browns, including apples too. So like if you make apple pie, one of the things that they'll tell you to do is just soak your apples in a little bit of water with lemon once they're cut, and then that way they don't brown before you cook them.
Learn something new every day.
Well, what's now you covered the game day experience in the Olympics. How does that differ versus like a Redskins game? Like what's like tailgating at the Olympics? What's that like?
It's not really done, but what you'll find at the Olympics.
Besides that,
well, actually, what's really interesting is that we're really the only country that tailgates. Like, if you go all over the world, you will never ever find what we do.
Even
it's
like
very
soccer games in England and stuff.
They don't do it the way that we do it. I mean, they have pubs. They love their pubs.
Yeah.
They love their bars, and they'll go and they'll drink quite a bit. It's more drinking than it is food. But yeah, we're the only ones that tailgate. What you will find at the Olympics, particularly the Summer Olympics, because they're larger, there's more sports, and they're generally the winter sports are sort of on two campuses. You have like the mountain area where the alpine stuff is happening, and then the main other area. So it's spread out. But at the summer games, you'll find a multitude of what they're called hospitality houses. And every country has a hospitality house. So when you go, it's like, I remember in London, we went to Austria, and it was snowing in the front yard in the middle of the summer. And they had like the huge Ricola, like horn thing. And it was made to look like a ski chalet. And like you went a few doors down was Switzerland. And there's girls in there with like, I shouldn't say girls, I should say women with like the lacy white shirt and like the lederhosen-y thing. And they're making meringues, and there's fondue, and there's chocolate. I mean, it was just like, it's great. I loved going to the Ireland house. It was so much fun. The Irish house.
It's just beer and Macallan's in there. That's it.
It's first of all, they have some of the best like team spirit you will find anywhere. They are a hoot. And it happened to be the gold medal match in boxing, women's boxing. It was the first year of women's boxing, and their woman, Katie Taylor, their boxer, was competing for gold, and they were just going bonkers, and it was so much fun. And they had Irish blue cheeseburgers that were insanely delicious, and that's not because they had a bunch of Guinness. It was because they were just that good.
Maybe.
I mean, you can't like chug Guinness.
No.
That doesn't go down like like a lighter beer, or even just more like a Stella. Like that goes down. Right. Guinness is like eating.
Right, it is. It's a meal in itself. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It's not like a Truly.
No. Dave and I have been on a Truly kick lately, so.
Oh yeah, those go right down. And then after a few, you're like, woo! What do I feel so weird for? Oh, right.
Right. But we try to hide it because we don't want to look like the guys that are not drinking beer, but we're drinking Truly. So.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you probably should.
It's embarrassing any way you look at it.
Yeah.
No, listen, it's very popular now. All the brands are getting in on it.
White Claw.
Well, White Claw's big.
Summer.
Right, exactly. So one of the last things we do is we go through with our guests and we talk about, we call it the No Huddle Drill. And it's our 2-minute where we blast some questions at you and we get you to answer them as fast as you can.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Fun. So, Dave, shoot.
Okay, if you could trade places with one person for a day, anyone in the world, who would that be?
Alive?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. Who would I want?
Well, you're a history major, so we'll allow deceased.
Dead? Elizabeth I.
Wow.
Done.
Quick history. Done.
Wow.
Why would it be her?
because she was like the most badass person in the history of ever. And she happened to be a woman. She was an incredible, incredible leader.
How many heads did she cut off?
Not that many. Not as famously as her father did, I should say.
Right. So what was your favorite, I think I know the answer, but your favorite sports venue?
I mean, Cameron.
Yeah, that's an easy one. We gave you a little softball.
Yeah, sorry.
Daina, do you have a pet peeve?
I have a lot of pet peeves. I mean, they're not necessarily related to sports.
Fire away.
If you are a tourist in New York, please know that we are very nice people. But if you are walking 5 people wide on a sidewalk, you are in everybody's way. So 2, no more than 2. And when we ask you nicely to move on the first go round, just move. Because if you don't move after one nice excuse me, we are going to push you.
I like that. I'm going to remember that when I'm in New York. Just stay away from your area. Definitely.
No, just be mindful that, like, we don't really use cars. We use our feet. So the sidewalks are our roads. And so if you're blocking the whole road, no bueno.
Right. I hear you.
All right. If we got a hold of your phone, who would be the most famous person that you have in your phone?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. How do you do?
Why don't we say, how about in the entertainment world?
I mean, I have Michael in there. I have MJ in there. I have Charles Barkley, who I message. We have the same birthday. So I send him happy birthday texts once a year. And that's it. I don't bother him other than that. So, and I have Patrick.
Oh, nice.
Those are solid.
So, what we always ask, if you could go back and tell a young Daina and give her some advice, what would that advice be?
Everybody's going to tell you throughout your life to have a little bit more patience, and maybe you should consider that.
You're just a go-getter. That's all it is.
I have 0 patience. I just want to make it. I want to make it happen. I want to go do it now. I want to do it the best I can immediately.
Dave, I guarantee she's like us too. When people drive slow in the fast lane, there's nothing. That's my pet peeve.
Terrible. Move over it. That's why we have a right lane.
Yeah, that's right.
Pass on the left.
Also, people that are bad mergers, it's the worst. It's
yes,
so
that's
bad.
True. It goes faster if you just take turns.
Right.
Exactly.
It's so much more efficient that way. I used to live in LA. I could talk about this for hours. Like, people there do not understand how to merge because they're all so what's the word? When you feel like, I'm totally blanking, but when you feel like you deserve things, whatever, I can't think. You know what I mean? Yes, thank you. Entitled. I was like, it starts with D, but it doesn't. No, everyone there's so entitled. I'm like, just take turns and there won't be traffic.
My worst one is like the line's getting longer, then it's the guy that won't let anybody up, and like he has a big truck and then he just runs them both, and I get so angry. Yeah,
or those people who come and like they wait for the exit ramp, and then everybody's lined up, they're in line, and then they go all the way to the front and they cut in right at the front.
Horrible. Also, now if we're gonna make a Hungry Fan movie, who would play you?
Who would play me? I have no idea. Somebody fun, playful, and perky, and snarky. I don't know. You
gotta get somebody. Who's your favorite actress then? You gotta.
My favorite actress wouldn't play me because she'd be older. I mean, it would be me, like in my 50s, maybe. But I'm also partial to Cate Blanchett. I love Cate Blanchett. I think she's a great actress, but she would not play me. I'd be not the right person. She wouldn't be the right person.
So you're thinking like somebody. What's her name from SNL?
Like Kristen Wiig.
No, the one
Kate
before.
McKinnon.
Yeah.
Kate McKinnon. I
love her.
Yeah.
She's so funny. She's way funnier than I am. But sure, she could play me. That would be
cool. There you go. Okay, so you've been in sports your whole life. You've been around all these great athletes. What's your favorite sports movie?
My favorite sports movie is A League of Their Own.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one.
I still have not seen that. I know it's a classic.
Oh, it's a classic.
But you know what? I've never seen The Godfather. I'm missing out on
America.
But you didn't even watch Slapshot either.
I didn't see that. There's a lot of stuff I'm still.
I mean, honorable mention for Eddie with Whoopi Goldberg when she plays the coach of the Knicks. It's not a great movie, but honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
Is Ewing in that one? Does he
no.
play in that? Oh, he doesn't.
Tom Thalias and Rick Fox.
Yeah. Your dad. I thought you might mention his movie, but you probably.
Space Jam.
Yeah. That's my kids loved that when they were little.
I love that movie, but like if A League of Their Own is on TV, I will stop and I will watch it. Like whatever I'm doing, even if I'm working, I'll just keep looking at it. It has to stay on.
Who's your favorite character in that?
Gina Davis.
Yeah.
Patty Henson.
Yeah.
Henson, obviously. I mean, Tom Hanks is the two of them together, but she's awesome.
That's the one we're
She's
talking
really
about.
pretty in that movie.
There's no crying in baseball.
There's no crying. Are you crying? There's no crying in baseball.
Right.
Yeah.
Madonna's in it.
Yes.
Donna.
Rosie.
Great cast. Really, really fun, good movie.
Yeah.
Solid cast.
Bill Pullman. Who doesn't love Bill Pullman?
Bill Pullman.
We all love him.
Everybody. I mean, come on.
We really appreciate you coming on to our podcast and talking a little bit about your story and, telling us all about the Hungry Fan and your book and what you're doing today. It was great, and I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed it. Dave, what do you think?
Well, I can't wait to incorporate some recipes We're right outside the Penguins arena, so
there you go.
We're not far away.
Yeah. So when you start doing the NFL and going around to all the tailgates, I'll give you my top 10.
Okay, sounds good. I wish I had that 2 years ago. I did an NFL tailgating show on CBS Sports 2 years ago. So when we get it back up and going, or a new version of it, I will.
And we'll go eat buffalo wings in Buffalo because they're pretty good up there.
Yeah, they are pretty good. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys for having me. And I just want to get a quick mention in. If you are a fan of your show, if you're a fan of Huddle Up, Guss and Dave, head to hungryfan.com. I put together a special discount in the store. So if you just go to shop and you use the promo Guss, GUS 20% off anything that's in there.
All right, great. We'll share that on social media and put it all out there and let everybody hear it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks. It was great to meet you.
Thanks, Daina.
Bye,
guys.
Thanks.
Bye.